Police releasing few details but say this was a homicide. That victim apparently found during a well-being check that was requested by a high-ranking city official.
Today, this normally quiet West Rogers Park block draped in police tape and neighbors left uneasy.
It's shocking, you know, it's just you wouldn't expect it in your building, but like I said, it's everywhere.
What would you do if you didn't show up to work one day and your boss cared enough to check on you? Would that simple act of concern save your life, or would it be too late? For DJ Flowers, a 36-year-old Chicago City employee, that wellness check came just hours too late. Welcome back to CrimeLab Report, where we dig deep into the cases that shake our communities and force us to ask the hard questions. Today, we're talking about a case that's still unfolding right now, a case that hit Chicago just this past Friday morning, and honestly, it's one that makes you wonder about the safety of your own front door. Before we get into the details, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because cases like this develop quickly and you'll want to stay updated as new information comes out. Now, let's talk about what happened. Friday morning, February 7th, 2026. It's a regular workday in Chicago. People are commuting, grabbing their coffee, heading into the office. But at the Office of Emergency Management and Communications, something feels off. One of their senior administrative assistants hasn't shown up. No call, no text, nothing. Now, we've all had those days where we hit snooze one too many times, right? But for someone who's reliable, someone who shows up consistently, this raises red flags. The deputy director doesn't brush it off. Instead, they pick up the phone and call the police, asking them to do a wellness check. Think about that for a second. How often does your workplace care enough to actually send someone to check on you? It says something about the person we're talking about here, doesn't it? So police arrive at a residence in the West Ridge neighborhood, specifically in the 6900 block of North Bell Avenue. It's around 9 a.m. They're expecting maybe she overslept, maybe she's sick, maybe there's a simple explanation. But what they find is far from simple. Behind the front door of her second-floor apartment, they discovered DJ Flowers. She's been shot. At least one gunshot wound her abdomen. She's unresponsive, and despite any efforts that might have been made, she's pronounced dead at the scene. Now, pause for a moment and put yourself in the shoes of those responding officers. They came expecting a routine wellness check. Instead, they walked into a homicide scene, behind the front door. Think about the implications of that location. Was she coming in? Was she trying to leave? Was she answering the door for someone she knew, or someone she thought she could trust? Here's where this case gets even more unsettling. As of right now, as I'm recording this, there are no suspects, no arrests, no persons of interest publicly named. The investigation is active, but it's also largely silent. We don't know if this was random violence or if someone specifically targeted her. We don't know if there was forced entry or if she opened that door willingly. We don't even know exactly when this happened, only when she was found. The Chicago police did find one piece of evidence that's both interesting and puzzling. Inside the apartment, officers recovered a firearm. But here's the thing. They haven't said whether that gun belonged to DJ or how it connects to the shooting. Does that mean she tried to defend herself? Was the weapon planted? Was it even involved in the crime at all? These are questions investigators are working to answer right now. Cook County Crime Stoppers has stepped up, offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. $10,000. That tells you how seriously they're taking this, how desperate they are for answers. Someone out there knows something. Maybe they saw a car that didn't belong in the neighborhood. Maybe they heard something that night. Maybe they noticed someone acting strangely near that building. The smallest detail could be the breakthrough this case needs. But here's what really gets me thinking, and I want you to consider this too. West Ridge isn't known as a dangerous neighborhood. In fact, it's actually one of the most diverse zip codes in the entire United States. People from different backgrounds, different cultures, different walks of life all living together, generally peacefully. It's the kind of neighborhood where families feel comfortable raising their kids, where people know their neighbors, where you think something like this just doesn't happen. The statistics back this up too. Your chance of being a victim of violent crime in West Ridge is about 1 in 400. Compare that to some other parts of Chicago, and you'd think you're in one of the safer areas of the city. So when something like this happens, it sends shockwaves through the entire community. If it can happen here, if it can happen to someone just living their normal life, going to work every day, then where exactly are we safe? Now, let's zoom out for a minute and talk about what's been happening in Chicago more broadly, because context matters here. You might have heard that Chicago has actually been making serious progress when it comes to violent crime. In 2025, the city saw its lowest number of homicides in 60 years. 60 years. That's not a small achievement. Shootings dropped by 35%. Carjackings were cut in half. Total violent crime went down by nearly a quarter. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These represent real lives saved, real families who didn't have to get that devastating phone call. The police clearance rate for homicides jumped from 56% in 2024 to 71% in 2025. That means more killers are being caught, more families are getting justice, more cases are being solved. So on paper, things are moving in the right direction. The city is celebrating these wins, and rightfully so. But here's the uncomfortable truth that cases like DJ Flowers force us to confront. When you're the one behind that statistic, when you're the family member getting that call, when you're the coworker who showed up to an empty desk that morning, those citywide statistics don't mean much, do they? You can't comfort a grieving family by telling them that overall crime is down. You can't bring someone back by pointing to improvement percentages. And this brings up something even more troubling. West Ridge actually experienced a spike in violent crime back in 2022. Homicides in that police district were up 80% compared to the year before. The community was scared. People were calling for more police presence. They were saying they didn't feel safe walking to their own garages at night. Since then, things have calmed down, the numbers have improved, people started feeling secure again. So, what does it mean when a case like this happens right when everyone's guard is starting to come down? Does it mean the improvements we've seen are fragile? Does it mean there are still predators out there waiting for the right moment? Or is this just a tragic reminder that no neighborhood, no matter how safe the statistics say it is completely immune to violence? There's also this other factor we need to talk about. Earlier in 2025, police actually warned West Ridge residents about a serial armed attacker. Between December 2024 and March 2025, this person was behind at least 5 different incidents: armed robberies, burglaries, even sexual assaults. The community was on high alert. Now, we don't know if there's any connection between that situation and what happened to DJ Flowers. So what does all of this tell us? It tells us that progress isn't evenly distributed. It tells us that some communities are still trapped in cycles of violence that statistics alone can't capture. It tells us that even when things are improving overall, there are still people living in fear, still mothers putting their babies in car seats wondering if today might be the day something terrible happens. Now let's talk about who was taken from us that day, because she deserves to be remembered as more than just another victim, another number, another case file. Her name was Gabrielle Ayers, though friends and family called her Gabby. She was 26 years old. She was a mother to a baby girl who will now grow up looking at photographs instead of making memories. She was someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone who mattered to the people in her life. And in one violent afternoon, she was gone. We don't know yet what led to this shooting. Investigators haven't released a motive. We don't know if this was gang-related, if it was a personal dispute, if it was mistaken identity, or something else entirely. What we do know is that multiple people made a decision to end her life, and they made that decision knowing full well there was a child in that car. They fired 50 rounds into a vehicle with a baby inside and didn't stop. That level of disregard for human life, that level of callousness, it's hard to even comprehend. The investigation continues, and hopefully, those responsible will be brought to justice. Hopefully, that video evidence will lead to arrests. Hopefully, Gabby's family will get some measure of closure. But even when justice comes, if it comes, it won't bring her back. It won't give that little girl her mother. It won't undo the trauma that this has caused. This case forces us to ask some really uncomfortable questions. And I want you to think about these seriously. What breaks in society when multiple people can coordinate to murder someone in broad daylight and feel justified in doing it? What are we missing in our communities that allows violence like this to continue even as overall crime rates drop? How do we protect the most vulnerable among us when danger can strike anywhere, anytime, even on a sunny Wednesday afternoon? And here's another question that keeps me up at night. How many near misses are there for every case like this that makes the news? How many times does someone drive down that same street and nothing happens? How many babies make it home safely while others, through no fault of anyone except the shooters, end up in the middle of a war zone? We also have to ask ourselves what we're willing to do about this. It's easy to watch videos like this, read stories like this, shake our heads and move on with our day. But what changes when we do that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Real change requires real action, real community involvement, real commitment to making sure this doesn't keep happening. So here's what I need from you. First, if you have any information about this case, if you know anything that could help investigators bring these shooters to justice, please reach out to Chicago Police. Anonymous tips can make all the difference. Second, I want you to share this video. Get the story out there. Keep Gabby's name in the conversation. Don't let this become just another forgotten case. And finally, I want you to think about your own community. What can you do to make it safer? How can you support the people around you? What role can you play in breaking these cycles of violence? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about this. If this case affected you, hit that like button. Subscribe to CrimeLab Report if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. We're going to keep following this story as it develops, and we'll bring you updates as soon as we have them. Until then, stay safe out there, and remember that every victim has a story, every life has value, and every case deserves justice. I'll see you in the next one.
Huh? I'll make sure. It's a whole J. Love you, girl. Hey.
They don't want her to go.
No, that's right.